Are we living in an era with more revolutionary change than has been the case during the past? The answer is yes.
Learning for me is entirely about behaviour change.
If you have those problems and you decide the answer to those problems is to think about employee engagement, you're rather missing the point.
Organisations are changing, the world is changing, the demographics are changing, who we trade with is changing.
We tend to mobilise head office, central teams, go through top-down change that we roll out on the organisation. So why is it we're surprised when there's high resistance and a lack of buy-in to what we're selling?
If you look at digital native businesses like Amazon, Airbnb, they don't talk about transformation because they were born digital.
Hi, and welcome to the Business Transformation Network's podcast. The BTN is an online media platform and job board focusing on transformational content, which we break down into three main categories: people, process, and technology. We host free events around these topics with experts in their field, and this podcast is brought to you by the BTN and their editor and your host, me, Emma McDermott. As always, if you enjoy our podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. All links from this podcast will be provided with the description on iTunes, Audible, or whichever app you listen to your podcasts on. This Business Transformation Network podcast is brought to you in partnership with Sage People. Sage People enable mid-size multinational companies to manage their workforce through its global cloud HR and people system, which transforms how your organisation acquires, engages, manages and develops your employees.
So I am back with part 2 of our episode with Professor Agnis Stibe, who is a 4-time TEDx speaker, an executive consultant for transformation leadership, and also a transformation professor at EM Normandy Business School. We will be continuing our conversation around the use of tech for amplifying human change, and we'll be picking up where we left off, which was looking at the potential addiction to technology that humans have and the role of trust and transparency in tech. So let's go ahead and get started. There's also quite a big piece here around trust and understanding, particularly if you look at sort of how users are reacting to technology and data sharing, for example, at the moment. And there's a lot of conversations that are going on around building trust cultures, either between the user and the developer, but also within organizations, and looking at sort of the benefits of trust. But how can you gain people's trust in this situation?
It kind of looks like an endless debate. So the trust factor, it has been around for centuries and thousands of years. How people would be able to trust the early people, like thousands of years ago, they would be, without even being able to have a language to have a conversation, they were always trying to figure out and understand whether that person that I'm meeting for the first time, can I trust them? And the same nature has been with us for all of this evolutionary journey. And still now we look not only people-to-people relationship and how we can trust that, but also the same question is applied to kind of people-to-people, human-to-human trust, but mediated by technologies. And this is very important topic, and we need to be very mindful. Number one, trust is essential because we, as the Homo sapiens, as a species, we have evolved, comparing to other species, we have evolved based on collaboration, and one of the fundamentals for collaboration is trust. The example that I could provide today, there is this big advancement in technology with regards to blockchain, cryptocurrencies. And the basic premise that this advancement in technology is providing, saying this is a distributed system, which means this is a trust is distributed through the nodes or through the stakeholders of the system. So there is no kind of a central governing body, but this is like a mutual trust that we build and create, maintain, and sustain. And that's an evidence that people are driven by the need for trust. And if we had previous technology, and if we had previous experiences that weren't as good in providing a transparent ways to monitor trust, then sooner or later, people are finding the ways to use the lessons from the previous experiences and advance it to the degree that the trust comes more in front of everything else. So for example, if the earlier financial systems were basically implying there is a trust and weren't really emphasizing, okay, you can work with us and you can use these financial systems and these are trustworthy, and you just and that wasn't repeated in that kind of form. It was kind of implied trust, but it wasn't there and it wasn't transparent enough. And because of the human nature in those players running the financial systems were sometimes misleading or sometimes guiding these responsible people that are running these systems to sometimes use some of their dark sides and get some benefits more for them, they were naturally putting themselves into the place to hide some of the things that would be not that trustworthy for the users of the system. And then naturally human nature fights back and says, no, we don't want this kind of a non-transparent system that we cannot see the trust really being part of the core values. We want it more in a shape that we could be able to transparently see how the trust emerges into technology design and how the trust is maintained and how we can pretty much monitor and be assured that the trust is there and we are contributing ourselves from our own perspective. Yes, this is a long-standing debate starting from the ancient experiences, how the trust actually is a core fundamental value, and now it comes more and more into the debates, especially with regards to technology. Can we trust technology itself? But rather the question is, can we trust the technology developers? Are we in the same boat with the technology developers so that we are having the trust as a mutual value on both sides?
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point to end on there. And so with the introduction of technology like AI, for example, it seems as though it requires us to have a better understanding of ourselves and our behaviours than we sort of do already. But we need to know enough to know what needs to change, if that makes sense. So how do we get there?
Yes, I really think that debate about artificial intelligence, or sometimes people refer to artificial general intelligence as something as a similar intelligence as we humans have. Unfortunately, we haven't made enough progress to understand our own human intelligence to the degree that we would be able to say, this is what we have, this is our human intelligence, and this is the way it works. And therefore, we would now try to replicate it onto technology, onto something artificial. So we will be kind of replicating it. Unfortunately, we are not there yet. Of course, there are companies like Neuralink, and they are building this chip that could be connected directly to the neurons in the human brain. What problem they're solving? They're solving the problem of data interchange speeds, the speed and the capacity, how we can exchange information between the human brains and the computers. Currently, what do? We exchange information with computers using typing in a keyboard or speaking, and then the voice recognition algorithms are trying to decode what we say and then make some sense. And it's very important, but it's still not sufficient for fully representing how the intelligence emerges into our own brains. And I think thanks to the companies that are now investigating the ways and are advancing the ways how we would be able to understand our brains better and how the neurochemical electrical signals are creating our understanding, our consciousness, our thoughts, when that process will be accelerated, we will be getting closer to what intelligence means to us, and we will be able to understand ingredients of the intelligence and emergence of intelligence from as some people refer to it, wetware. So the brain's wetware, not the hardware, not the software, but wetware, and how that process is generating what we call intelligence. I think that's a very fundamental step towards real artificial intelligence. And I think that's missing right now. What we have right now, we have very nice algorithms for a very particular purposes that have been built, and they're serving quite well. So if there is an algorithm for image recognition, of course you can improve it, and that algorithm will be better and better at recognizing what is on the image. The same with the voice recognition and other things, facial expressions, emotional states, it's all good. The missing part is it's still very fragmented, and it just represents a tiny bits of the capacity that we humans have. So the last part that I would like to really emphasize currently, there is a missing insight or a missing piece, or there is a misinterpretation about what we should expect from artificial intelligence today. People sometimes get into this delusion saying, well, if we have a problem, if we have a human problem, we will give it to the artificial intelligence. It's going to solve it for us. No. The artificial intelligence currently is at the level where it can help us with the problems by applying its superiority in a particular areas, which means speed, data processing speed, accumulation, analytics, storage, and maybe some others. But knowing that these are the properties of, let's say, artificial intelligence, where it can do better than us, there is a very fundamental component to be not missed, which is the artificial intelligence technology will provide the result to us according to the requirements that we are providing or to requests. The quality of requirements and requests that we are giving to the artificial intelligence will determine the outcome. If we give poor instructions for the artificial intelligence, it will amplify poor instructions, which will lead to poor results. If we give good instructions, good quality instructions, really purposeful, meaningful instructions to the artificial intelligence, it will imply that. And that means it will be completely different level of productivity and the results. And especially I'm emphasizing that because if we speak about change, if we speak about transformation, even in organizations and businesses, if we haven't understood how human change is helping business and organizations to accelerate their performance and getting their results, if that clarity is not there, it doesn't matter which technology, what process you're putting into place. If you haven't understood the core of the change, their barriers and the processes and tools how to overcome it, you can repeat it over and over again, the results will be poor. So the understanding of how we can determine and clarify the change process in the human nature. And with that clarity, we are prescribing requirements that we would expect our artificial friend to accelerate. This is the way how we really would get the benefits. And I think there are examples already today. Yes, we can play with AI, we can do funny things, it can do something much better than us, it can impress us. But if we want to achieve meaningful and also more larger scale improvements of how AI can help us, then first of all, we need to get back to ourselves, to our nature, and prescribe what really would help us to change. And once we understood that, then we give these requirements to AI. Developers will do that, and then we will celebrate much greater results than we have today.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you there. And so with a little more understanding of what makes people tick, technology and business leaders can work together to encourage change in sort of a more people-first approach. But what would be the steps to achieving this?
Generally speaking, if we asked any human being, whether that's a leader, manager in an organization, department manager, or expert, they would all provide similar answers. All of them would say, well, I would like a better life, whatever that means to anybody. Some people would say more towards well-being, some people towards business performance. But all in all, everyone wants improvements. Everyone wants something better. And again, in the business vocabulary, that's pretty much a performance. And to make this collaboration between technology and people the most beneficial for everybody is really to do a few things. Number one, the realization, especially for business leaders, for organizational managers, realization that the human change in their employees, in their partners, in their collaborators, in every human being that is involved in their organizational processes, inside, outside the organization, markets and customers. The biggest acceleration that they could achieve, even using technology, would be only if they have realized that the human change is at the core of everything. This one fundamental realization, which is not enough discussed at the business schools, it's not enough taught at the universities, it's not enough spoken in the social media and also on the public discussions. Everyone, again, I would refer back to our 5 senses: seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting. It's all directed outwards. We, by our design, human beings by design, constantly look for remedies outside. And even if you look at the January 1st effect, it's the New Year's resolution, people would constantly look for something outside as the motivator. And that's the problem. And again, I am not saying we should be designed as human beings differently, but the realization that if we are not paying enough attention to the role of human nature or human change into all of the everyday processes, we are missing the core part. Of course, we can, as I described previously, of course, the organizations can change software, they can change offices, they can change employees. But if there isn't this awareness that the key to success, the key to hyper performance is how you understand the human change and what is the importance in your daily operations, your daily decision making, what importance is given to, first of all, accepting the human change is at the core of everything. And secondly, do you have enough understanding of how it really works? And do you have tools to actually do something with this human change into your organizations? Technology comes only after that. Technology can speed up different kind of things, but as I said, if they speed up poor processes, you will have poor processes with a higher speed. So therefore, if the organization, if the leaders want to get better processes, then they start with how they can integrate and how they can deploy mindset or processes or regulations or culture in the organizations that embraces that the human change is at core of every success. And the only way to maximize their success is by embracing this. And later, once that is embraced, technology would accelerate and speed up this recovery or, I don't know, the business profitability using that understanding and that knowledge. So therefore, technology comes after we have this clear understanding and the notion, yes, we want to incorporate, integrate the knowledge and wisdom of human change into our mindset, into our culture, and then technology is the supplement that is accelerating that transformation in organizations.
Amazing. And so we've sort of been heading there throughout the episode, but how can you use emerging technology to help encourage and enable human change?
I think here we have to have one very important part of our mindset, which means if we really look at emerging technology and we want to use that emergence of capacity and capability of technology for our own benefit, for the benefit of the organizational performance, we really have to use that opportunity for constant self-monitoring and constant self-reflection, or as I mentioned earlier, as using and perceiving this technology as the big mirror, not as a remedy, not as the final solution, not as the answer to all the questions, but your partner, your counterpart into discovering the best ways for this man-machine co-creation. it's really, whenever there's a new technology arriving to organization, it's not about, okay, this is a fix that's going to work and that's going to solve everything. No, it arrives to your organizational culture, to the mindset of your people. And that is your opportunity to see openly, listen what's happening, monitor what happens with the KPIs, and ask constantly your questions. Is this piece of technology is naturally integrating with the values and the mindsets that people have, or does it go against and creates more resistance, or that's something that really is damaging from the very beginning? I think these questions are, even if they are asked in a different form at a different other meetings. But I think this is more about decision making and the leadership team and organizations to, anytime there is a new innovation, technology-driven innovation emerging into the market, and they are considering that to be applied into their particular business organization, that's number one, is how this process of implementing this new technology will help us to realize where are the challenges, current challenges with human change in the organization, because those will be quickly highlighted. So using this opportunity to see where else in our organization we have remaining parts of human change that we haven't dealt so far. And technology, by arriving, will highlight these opportunities for improvement in human change. And those emerging technologies will be the catalyst. So if that's the mindset for the organizational leaders, if they perceive technology as being the catalyst for re-emphasizing or re-highlighting where are the remaining challenges they could still improve, that would be the most beneficial way to look at how the emerging technologies would really be helping to find where are these areas for improvements in human change. And then the next question is whether this particular technology is still relevant after it has done its primary job to highlight, okay, we have the human challenge in this department, in that department, or that process, and then reconsider whether to keep this exact technology because it's already done the first job. It highlighted the need to change there. And maybe after that realization, leaders would reconsider how we can improve the human change in the highlighted areas. And with that new understanding, look back to the market and ask, is there a better matching technology emerging that would be serving after this change has happened? So I think this is the formula, this is the recipe, how the organizational leaders can look at the emerging technology.
And I think you made a really important point there, that it's more people and tech instead of people or tech, because there seems to be quite a lot of scaremongering around sort of tech removing a lot of roles.
Indeed, it's like you are going to dance classes. So you're trying to find your partner, and what mankind is currently experiencing is trying to find the best dance partner from technology side, and also to learn what would be the dance moves, which would be the most enjoyable, the most effective and efficient. And therefore, I am oftentimes speaking about this man-machine co-creation phase. And on the other hand, it's like human-computer symbiosis. And we cannot really currently find any other alternative, because we have been creating tools, different kind of tools, different kind of revolutions, industrial revolution, technological revolution, now digital revolution. It has always been our driver, how we can augment our human experience with the help of the tools. And technology is a big tool. And here we are now learning to coexist, co-evolve is the word that I'm usually using, co-evolve together with technology. A reminder once again, and I'm very confident because I have 2 master's degrees, one in computer science and the other is MBA, and my PhD, including the social psychology. We are building our reality. Technology, we have welcome technology into our reality, not to be afraid from it, not to be dependent on it, not to be addicted to it. Of course, these all kind of unpleasant side effects have happened due to some of the dark sides of our human nature and some people being more greedy than the others. But in reality, if we just take a pause, look at what technology is, we would definitely realize it's a tool. It's a tool that is for our service. And we are the masters, we determine what to do with it. Some people even speculate, well, artificial intelligence, it will have this dark mission to get rid of human beings. And that's a scenario in the movies. And that's why people kind of have created this potential scenario. Generally, AI, if it will be asked, what's your purpose? The purpose to the AI would be given by human beings. There is no other way how they would create it for themselves. Of course, in the future, maybe when AI progresses to the degree that we would understand our own intelligence, then replicate it to the AI, and then it might have some similar ways of thinking. There could be possible still scenarios that I recently came across in my mind that it might be one chance that there is this kind of a fight for something, but in reality, again, it depends on how we will think about AI and how we will be willing to be evolving. I'm not going to go into that detail right now, so I will keep it for some other future conversation, this possibility, because it's still kind of on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the dance partner piece is a really nice way of explaining it. I think it sort of brings it down to more layman's terms. So as a sort of way of wrapping up, Agnis, if people take one thing away from the conversation today, what would you want it to be?
So one thing that people could really do to help themselves within the spectrum of topics that we covered today, I would encourage everyone to really give themselves a time and ask one question. Of course, people can ask that question as many times as they want, as long as they are experiencing that they are moving onwards with this question. So the question will not be very sophisticated. It will be, to some people, would look like, oh, this is very trivial. But I'll tell you, it sounds trivial, but once you will start doing it frequently and revisiting this question frequently and being honest with yourself, this is where most of the people will experience huge inner rush of energy for really welcoming different kinds of changes in their lives. And the question is, what do I want? What do I really want? And what is really, like, I will stick with that. What do I really want? So when people will revisit this question, what do I really want? What do I really want? And the emphasis is, what do I really want? The same goes for the leadership teams in the organization. The same goes for the governments. The same goes for the people in their families or in their sports club, in their any kind of social circle, and starting from themselves. If people would be clear on what do they really want, not what the social media tells, not what they read on the news, not what everybody else in their high school are saying, not what with everything, but what do I really want? And this is the question when the people would be revisiting for themselves and really giving themselves time to think about it. That's the shortcut. That's the shortcut to the maximizing everyone's success, because that question will lead people to the core of who they really are, number one, and then what is the potential that is waiting for them to be released. Because otherwise, daily routines, habits, societal conditioning, other things, tasks, distractions are not letting people to ask and stay with this question for enough time so that they are actually really opening themselves up and fulfilling their lives. And if they're fulfilling their lives, they're fulfilling their lives of their families, their organizations, their social circles, and then their society. So the question is, what do I really want?
Amazing. And I think that's a really nice way to close up the episode. So thank you for your time today, Agnis.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it or learned something. For more content like this, please subscribe to the BTN website. As always, we really appreciate any thoughts and feedback about the show. You can reach us on Twitter @thebusinesstn, or you can email us at emma@thebtn.tv with any questions or suggestions for future episodes. We read all emails and will always try to respond as soon as possible. This episode is sponsored by Sage People. Thanks.